Okay, excuse me. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we would like to recognize that collectively we are on the unceded territories of all the First Nations within our regional boundaries. Could I have approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Call question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Now this staff report, the request for decision, does that need to be read out?
You
Okay.
can just move it as shown on the agenda.
I'll move it.
Okay. Seconded by Vivian. Call question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Can we, okay, the consent agenda. Is there anything in the consent agenda that needs to be removed before we pass it? So
I'll move the consent agenda.
okay, seconded by Karen.
Yeah, I think so.
Call question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Now we get down to business arising from the minutes. I don't believe there is any. Staff reports and other business. CAO verbal update. Do you have anything for us, Kristen? No? Okay.
Do not, thank you.
Can we go, can you just move it up a touch to 6.2? There we go.
Yeah.
So request for decision, Upper Squamish Valley Electoral Area D, DVP application number 158. Do you want to say anything to this, Tony, or do we get staff on this?
I have Director Needham in the waiting room if you'd like me to bring her in for this.
Yeah, I don't know anything about.
Okay. Yeah, please do so. But now I've lost the agenda, so that's all right. I guess you can.
Sorry, I stopped my screen share Mac just to let Director Needham in. I can go back to screen sharing now if you'd like me to.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm in, Kristen.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Morning, Kim Needham.
Morning, Vivian. Director Birch Jones.
Do you want to make any comment on this application?
Are we on the DVP application? Sorry, I'm
Yes.
not. Okay. No, we support it. It's a 3-meter variance for a setback.
Okay. Do you want to move this, Tony?
Yeah, the only question I have was the existing concrete slab. Did they build that without permission?
That's correct. In the wrong place.
That's the only concern I have. I mean, I don't mind moving this, but I don't want somebody else to go and build a concrete slab and say, "Oh, whoops, look, it's in place. So now can I use it?" Seems the wrong way around to me.
Agreed.
So with that sort of with a certain degree of reluctance, I will move it in this instance. But if another one comes up like this, I might not be so kind.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, seconded. Call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. 6.3 is 21 to 25 budgets. Is Suzanne available?
She is. I'm going to put Director Needham in the waiting room for now and bring Director LaFrance in. Thank you. Chair Mac, do you want me to go back to sharing my screen for now or
Yes,
not?
Please, if you could.
Okay, so Director LaFrance, Chair Mac has asked me to share my screen, so I think I'll go to your staff report, if that's helpful.
Sure. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Suzanne LaFrance, Director of Finance. We'll be going over the EAD budgets. And this will be the last review before they're adopted. So any changes, any questions, now is the time. Basically, the budgets are in the same state as last time you viewed them. I just updated some 2020 figures to the actuals. So the requisitions remain the same. The building inspection requisition has increased, and that's a 26% increase. And this is due to additional staffing and just due to the operational costs of the building inspection service. The elections service also has an increase, and that is due to the Area A by-election that happened and used up a lot of the reserve that was for the elections to be in 2022. So we need to we need to get those reserves back in order to have enough for the 2022 elections. And of course, we don't know if the UBCM is, do we know if the UBCM will be remote this year? Not yet, eh? And
Probably.
if it is remote, we'll probably see more savings in that cost center. So there's a lot of unknowns with what will happen this year still with expenses for UBCM. And the emergency planning requisition has increased as well, 6% increase, so not as extreme as the other services. I did move the virtual hall project into general government, and that is the CEPF grant that we received. And so that morphed into building a virtual hall. So that whole project is removed from emergency planning now and in general government. And we went through that at the regional board meeting. And the only changes really were to the Community Parks Fund, which was the 3,000 cost center at the very end, but that was just for those resolutions that I requested at the last meeting, which were to bump up the amenity funds in order to ensure that the resolutions weren't overspent, and to get the new resolution for the Area D amenity funds for the Britannia Beach Dock potential staff time for 2021. So that was up to 10,000 Area D amenity funds for staff time for Britannia Beach Dock. So I went pretty quickly because they haven't changed since last time, but please let me know if you have any questions or any concerns or anything at all, and I can go through things in more detail.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Suzanne,
Mm-hmm.
just a question that I'm not clear about the Britannia Beach Dock, about that time allocation, because there's some money. I can't get at my screen right now, but there's some money set aside in Select, I believe, for that time. I'm just wondering what, and I can't see what the rest of that sentence says either.
So this was the resolution that was just passed in February, and that was regarding the Britannia Beach Dock time allocation, because there was expected to be some time spent in 2021. However, all of the resolution time that was previously, I don't know what it was, a September 2018 board resolution. We went over that time allocation for that resolution. So there was no remaining time as per that resolution. I don't have the Select funds in front of me, unfortunately, to see what you're referring to.
Yeah, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm thinking of amenities funds. I thought I had some money set aside for the dock in Select, that was committed but not spent. But we can talk about that offline sometime.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
Look at that. Kristen's. So it'd be Area D.
You write down, it would be allocations down the bottom there, committed. Britannia Beach Dock, if needed.
Oh, tenure
Oh,
assignment
tenure
application.
assignment. Oh, okay. Okay. So that's a different thing.
Similar, the same project, but not for time allocation.
Okay, that's fine. No problem then. Thank you.
Yeah, Vivian, go ahead.
Just, morning, Suzanne LaFrance. Thank you. I think you answered all my questions the last time we went over this, and I see that the portal identification, the signage budget was moved into 2,900 as I asked. And so I feel pretty comfortable with what's presented here, and thanks for giving it to us another time to review. Is it, I can't remember, our reserve, is it 3 months that we want to have set aside in each budget? Is that what we decided?
I believe it's 2 months minimum was
Okay.
the reserve guidelines, but of course, it's not, we can go with any kind of total that we feel comfortable with, yeah.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that was updated too in the last versions. So with the general select funds for the emergency planning service as per those resolutions from January board.
Okay, good.
Okay, so everybody's comfortable with what's been presented? Can I get somebody to,
Motion to receive?
do we move this or just receive it, Kristen?
Oh, thanks, Chair Max. Director LaFrance, would you like a motion approving these budgets?
That would be preferable. I'm not sure if it's absolutely necessary, but that just shows that the EAD committee is happy with them and they're going to the board for their final approval, because they're not really approved at this level. They're approved at the board level, the financial plan.
So a
Well,
recommendation to the board that they
Yes.
have been approved, yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so moved.
Okay,
I'll
seconded,
sec-
Tony?
Yep.
Okay, call a question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Kristen,
Yes.
I need the agenda again, please.
Yes, I'm just going to, I think Suzanne, Director LaFrance, we're done with all your matters. And I will admit the staff for the next item, Chair Mac, and then I'll screen share again. Is that okay?
Fine, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there.
Who is that?
This is Arlene McLean, Senior Building Clerk.
Hello, Arlene.
Hello, Arlene.
Hello, Arlene. Your name was on some of these reports. It's Vivian here.
Yes. Oh, hi, Vivian. Hi.
Okay,
Director,
so
sorry.
we're on now 6.4.
Okay.
Request for decision, notice on title construction contrary to building bylaw regulations, Dijon Area C. Do you want to bring us up to speed on this, please, Arlene?
Okay, so Mr. De Jong, on his property, there was an existing garage. We received a complaint that somebody was living in the upper portion of the garage, as well as an addition was being constructed. Our building inspector went on site, issued a stop work notice for the new construction. The property owner did comply with coming in with an application, plans. He required a development variance permit because the new addition encroached further into the rear setback. He also required a covenant revision. He followed through with all of those, but then the revision to the plan, there's been back and forth with the building inspector, and we did not receive the updated or revised plans. We waited we've tried to contact him and we've not received any further response. And so now we're at the point where we've just requesting that the notice on title be placed, but also that a court injunction be initiated, as we are not fully aware whether someone continues to live in the garage or not.
Okay, I know this residence. It's just down the road from where I live. And at this point in time, there's nobody in the garage. And so what I would like to see is just put the notice on title to get him to follow through on what he needs to. I don't want to go the injunction route at this point. I think we need to put it on title, and that'll, you know, give him the message that we want this whole thing cleaned up, and then once that's done, he can have the title removed. So that's what I would like to see. Vivian?
So Chair Mack, that would be option 1, file a section 57 community charter notice in the land title office with respect to the property. The property owner may apply to have the notice removed once the contravention has been resolved. That's your preference?
Yeah, that's correct.
second that. I will second that.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Kristen,
Yes.
can we go on to the next one now?
If we could also get a motion for the second that's on the agenda. I'll just go back to that. We did the first one just to file the notice. And
I need to see the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we
yeah.
go. Okay.
And so this one here, if you can see me highlighting that further information regarding this notice on title be inspected at the offices.
Yeah, I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Okay, call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
6.5 is a request for decision notice on title, construction contrary to building bylaw regulations, ESP Holdings Limited, Area D. Arlene, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, could we
And if
go
you-
over this one too?
Okay. If you could have a look at the photograph of the building, quite an extensive building.
What
building
is it?
Oh, hold on. Which page are we?
Oh, sorry. It's on the notice of title for ESP Holdings Limited, Area D.
Okay, I see it
And
now.
in the report, there are 2 photographs, one of the full structure.
Arlene, what is it?
It's like I don't know if they wanted to use it to store items, but it's quite extensive and I guess I'm trying to think of the word, like a timber
I can see the photo.
structure.
Yeah, I'm looking at the photo, but I just
Yeah.
I can't figure out what the use will be.
I know it's just this big, huge structure on the property. And when the building inspector was on site, spoke to the contractor, and he said, "Oh yes, I will get a permit," and promised to follow through. And we did attempt to contact the owners, and again, no response. And at this part, we're requesting that a notice on title be registered to the title, but also that we do follow through with a court injunction to either have them follow through with the process or take the building down.
I'll move that.
So can I just sorry to interrupt, to clarify,
Yeah.
Director Rainbow, you're moving the option as set out on the agenda, which includes the initiation of court proceedings.
Yes.
Okay, Vivian, you had,
It's a couple of questions about the process. So tried to contact the owner. Does that mean 1 or 2 phone calls or an email or a letter in the mail or all 3? And also, when we post these things, it looks like people have to actually come into the regional district office. We don't put these things online to be available? Just 2 process questions.
When they're tagged like that, and like I said, there was somebody on site when this, when the inspector was there and placed the stop work. But I mean, they can always download an application online. We send them a letter with an application and telling them the process, but they've not followed through, and here we are.
Thank you. That's
So
what I hear, the letter explaining the process. That's excellent. Thank you.
okay, so it's been moved. Do we have somebody to second it? Okay, Vivian, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Now we go to 6.6.
Okay.
Sorry, I just stopped screen sharing for a moment because I can't see alternate director Playfair on my screen when I'm screen sharing. I just wanted to make sure she was still here, which she
She's
is.
there.
So thank you.
Okay, 6.6 is request for decision, notice on title, construction contrary to building bylaw regulations, Jensen Area C. Arlene?
Okay, first of all, did the electoral area directors all receive the letter from Mr. and Mrs. Jensen? The
Well, I
response?
did, but I don't know if anybody else did.
I don't recall it.
I don't believe it was in our EAD package. Could be wrong. I'm looking. I don't think so.
Okay, it was to be a late item to be received by the directors. Okay, what has happened there is Mr. and Mrs. Jensen originally took out a permit for a shed building. At that time, the permit was issued and renewed in back in 2003, 2005 for a storage shed. The building inspector of the day had noted that there was a studio and a change in the storage shed plans, I guess, and that it looked like there would be a dwelling, and had asked that the ALC and an application to the ALC be initiated, as even back in those days, in order to have a second dwelling, you required the Agricultural Land Commission to approve that before the building department could issue a permit for a dwelling. That follow-up by the same building inspector, again, way back in 2005, was again stating that we needed revised plans showing the studio. And again, you know, was there going to be a dwelling part of that building or not? That kind of fell by the wayside. Nothing further was followed through until we started receiving complaints in 2018, so many years forward. The bylaw officer received complaints that a building was being used for B&B purposes, or possibly it was called a lodge. And so a letter by our bylaw officer was sent in June of 2018, a follow-up letter in July of 2018, again outlining the process of what would be required in order for a second dwelling and a B&B use. The Jensens did apply to the ALC for tourist accommodation of that structure. And in December of 2019, that application was denied. We were asked to follow up or follow through for compliance, and until we sent our request for in February of 2021, we sent a request for that the notice on title and court injunction would be initiated if compliance was not initiated. So that's kind of where we're at.
And I'll just add some commentary, if I may, through the chair. Thanks, Arlene. So the process for compliance is a very difficult one at this point for the Jensens, because they would need to go back to the ALC. They were just recently rejected by the ALC for the lodge use. They would now have to go back to the ALC and request permission to have a second dwelling on the property, which they're not allowed to have. It's highly doubtful that the ALC would approve a second dwelling, but let's say they were approved. It would then have to get rezoned on our side. Our zoning does not allow a second dwelling of that size. They're significantly over the size of dwelling that is allowed for a farm employee residence, which is what this would fall under. I think it would be highly precedent setting if we were to approve a rezoning for that second dwelling. But let's say they then got a rezoning. They would then need to apply for a building permit. And they would have to conform to the 2018 BC Building Code, which would be very, very onerous and expensive because the house was constructed without any kind of permits and approvals back in mid 2000. It was like a conversion from a shed, as Arlene noted. So I just wanted to lay out the steps that they would have to go through to try and gain compliance. We're not allowed to issue a building permit. And in Mr. Jensen's letter to us that came in a couple of days ago, he had said he's going to start initiating hiring engineers and architects to help him bring the house into compliance. Unfortunately, even if he were to do that, we can't issue a building permit. He has to apply again to the ALC. If he gets rejected by the ALC on the second dwelling, there's nothing we can do. The road ends there, and our only option would be to seek an injunction against them for residing in, and they say they're not using it as a lodge anymore, but they would be residing in a house that's unpermitted. So I just wanted to lay out sort of the road ahead if there is no injunction at this point.
Yeah,
Thanks,
may I ask a question, please?
yeah, Tony, go ahead.
So, Kim, if I understood what you just said, their first step is to apply again to the ALC.
Correct.
Okay. So do we need to do anything now then until they've done that, until we hear the result of that?
Well, we're recommending that we start with an injunction. If we wanted to give them some leniency to try again to apply to the ALC, we could do so and not proceed with an injunction. But if we do not see an ALC application within the next month or two, I think we should be coming back to the EAD to again request an injunction.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
Kim?
Yes,
Tony. So, yeah, my take on this, and I know this has been a long, drawn-out affair, but I think that we should go with your option one, put a notice on title, and give them a timeline of going to the ALC. They can hire, and I believe they've already hired an engineer and another professional to give them advice. They've been told how much it's going to cost, and it's definitely not going to be cheap to do all this. But I think we should give them that opportunity, seeing as how it's been 15 years now. But give them a timeline of probably say 3 months. And if they don't follow through with what we're asking them, then we go ahead and put the injunction forward. But that would be my recommendation, and that's what I would move at this point.
so through the chair, just to be clear, Director Mack, just so I know what you're saying is that we give them 3 months to make application to the ALC for making that second dwelling legitimate on the property, getting approval for that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as long as we, at the same time, give them some sort of indication that there's no way they should be continuing to do any work on that in the meantime, and then coming to us, in 4 months' time, saying, "Oh, look, we've just spent $100,000 fixing it." They should know that all we're doing is waiting to hear the results of the ALC process. But any work done in the meantime, we completely discount that in our discussion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and through the chair, it's
They've gotta
premature.
get the permission from the ALC, so. Yeah.
Chair, it's premature for them to be engaging engineers and architects at this point. So I think we need to also make that clear to them.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is they're just trying to get some advice on where to go. But obviously, they have to get the okay from the ALC before they go anywhere. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's the order of operations. ALC first, then a rezoning through the SLRD, and then a building permit.
Okay. Can we then, by putting a notice on title and adding what we're discussing here now to say a letter of I don't know if you want to call it recommendations, or just a letter to let them know exactly what we want them to do or what they need to do to keep this thing moving forward.
It would be helpful for us as staff if the EAD could form a resolution around next steps, and like something like that. That staff bring back a report seeking injunction within 3 months if no ALC application is received within that time frame.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'll make that resolution as you just stated, because that's exactly what we're saying. So I'll move that as a resolution.
Second.
This is kind of the situation that I'm a bit worried that some of our farmers in Area B might get into. So I'm watching this. I mean, we totally need some of these small secondary suites on some of the ALC land. And so I also recognize that some of our older buildings are going to not then meet the current building code. So I'm happy if there's a little bit of a stretch to give these guys the opportunity to proceed with this the ALC has changed the rules in the meantime to be more lenient about a secondary suite, recognizing the needs. So hopefully we can do this without compromising any agricultural land, right? I support
I
this.
totally agree with you, Vivian. So I've moved it, Tony seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Chair. So that
Yes,
was
go
the
ahead.
that was the first resolution about bringing it back. And then the next resolution will be the option 1, the filing of the notice on title.
Okay, and I'll move that. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I think Karen seconded it.
Oh, sorry, I can't see her, so
No,
thank you
neither
for
can I,
that.
neither can I.
Yeah. I'll call the question then. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. And then the third is, let me just go back to this. The second that on the agenda, which is the making the information, in the inspection of the information at the offices in Pemberton.
Yeah, I'll move that. And Vivian seconds it. Call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried.
And then Kristen, you got the third that as well, right?
Which was the first that, being
That
the,
staff bring back a report seeking an injunction within 3 months if no application to the ALC is received.
yeah, that was the first one.
Okay, that's in there. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Just checking.
Okay, and now we're on to 6.7. Request for decision, notice on title. Construction contrary to building regulations,
Hold on.
various.
Hold on, Chair Mac. Just help me out here. Tell me what number we're on the agenda. I'm collecting
6.7,
6.7.
yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm with you again. Apologies.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Kim? Are
Oh,
you
I'm
there?
gonna let Arnie speak to this if that's okay.
Okay,
Arlene
thank you.
McLean, Senior Building Clerk. Okay, 6.7. So the building inspector had noticed a new carport addition had gone up, stopped in, placed a notice on title, or placed a notice on title, placed a stop work notice. Again, the standard letter application is sent out. We did get an email response from the owner. Again, all the information was sent to the owner stating the timeline. We would require an application prior to this meeting in order to remove it from the agenda. We have not received an application and we've not heard anything further. So we're requesting a notice on title.
Okay, I'll move that. Vivian seconds it. I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, directors.
Thank you.
Sort of.
Okay, so now we're on 7.1, Furry Creek Beach / Park, Director Rainbow. Would you like to speak to this, Tony?
Sure. Furry Creek, the actual creek divides the community into a north and a south part. Most of the development, the Oliver's Landing development, is north of the creek. So this is south of the creek as a beach that is becoming increasingly used by the public year round. I mean, we've had people down there lighting fires and having picnics through the winter. And there are no toilet facilities anywhere near there. So people do what they need to do. If they're down there for the day, they go into the bushes. And while it's not a public health issue, it's not pleasant. So we would like to put a toilet facility down there. Now, not a simple thing to do because you've got the Fine Piece development happening in the process right now. So what we've come up with is this. There is a Ministry of Transport right-of-way which extends from the highway across the railroad tracks, across a crossing that exists but isn't used at the moment. And it goes down to the beach. And when it gets to the beach, it extends from sort of a roadway to an apron that I would suggest that sometime in the past, somebody thought there was going to be a road there and that this apron area would be the car park. It doesn't appear that's ever going to happen. It doesn't sort of fit in with what is being planned at the moment. So our proposal is to put these toilet facilities on that Ministry of Transport right-of-way. Now, Fine Peace, the Fine Peace Golf and Country Club, they are on board with this. The location would be close enough to the 14th hole that it could be used by golfers. It's also close enough to the beach that people would it's just a matter of 20, 25 yards from the beach. So the location, as far as the golf club is concerned, is good. As far as the public using the beach is concerned, it's a good location. What we need is a permit from Ministry of Transport. I've spoken to the local manager. We have a permit application form, which I forwarded to staff. So I think in my report, I suggested that we approve this with the proviso that permitting process proceeds successfully. Now, with regard to funding, I would like to use gas tax community works funds. Now, I think Suzanne's initial feeling was that wasn't suitable or presented too many problems. But I think if SLRD applies for the permit rather than the local community association, so if SLRD owns the permit to use that piece of Ministry of Transport land, and if we therefore sort of own the facility, the golf club have agreed that they will maintain it. They will supply the paper, do the limited cleaning that's necessary, and so on. I think it fits under Community Works Fund, so I'd really like us to pursue that and try to fund it that way. We've got a lot of money in that Community Works Fund, and I just hate to see it sitting there in the bank when it could be used for projects which are necessary. However, I don't want failure for that to come through to stop the project. So if that funding's not available, I want to use Area D Amenities Fund. And if there's not enough in the Amenities Fund by the time this comes around, then I want to use Area D Select. So I think from that you can gather that I really want to see this go ahead. It really isn't. The reason I want the gas tax funds to be used, it's not a facility for local residents. You know, people from Furry Creek will not be walking down the beach there to use that toilet. There may be the odd dog walker that stops in there, but 90% of the people that use that beach are from Metro, from Squamish, from Whistler, from Lions Bay. They're not local Furry Creek people. Eventually, as I noted when we were talking about the viewing platform last meeting, eventually that whole area is likely to become a park and a regional park. So what else have I got to add? These things are being constructed in a way that will allow them to be moved. They're not pit toilets, they're above ground installations. So if, as the development proceeds, they're seen to be in the wrong place, they can be moved. And further down the road, the developers have suggested that they will be putting in a sort of a proper flush toilet facility close to the beach and in a slightly better location than this one. So we're looking at a sort of 2 to 5 year solution, depending on how long it takes to get that part of the project developed. And we're looking at buildings that can be relocated in the Furry Creek area at trailheads or probably car parks at trailheads, or could be moved somewhere else in Area D, or anywhere in the region for that matter. So there you go. Any questions?
Oh, it sounds good to me, that's for sure. So Vivian, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair Mac. Director Rainbow, is Fine Peace, they're benefiting from this, they're not contributing, but you have their blessing is sort of what I get. I have a couple of questions.
Well, let me answer that one.
Okay.
Financially, we haven't asked them for any money, no. But what they're contributing is that they will do the ongoing maintenance, which is significant. You know, it's not a huge amount, but if they don't do it, then who does? You know, then it's dependent on volunteers, or it's dependent on SRD paying for it in some way. So for them to take over the sort of regular checks and maintenance of that facility is quite a significant contribution.
That's hugely valuable. Thank you. I'm all in favor of these toilets and public toilets in general. And in fact, I sent the information on these types of toilets off to some of our recreation and tourism people up here. I think it's good. I'm wondering if under community work funds, if J, the solid waste, will cover this, because it's infrastructure that supports solid waste management systems, including the collection, diversion, and disposable, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that will work. If it does work for you with this application, then that could be very beneficial for us up here in Area B as well. Although I did get a response when I sent this out to rec sites and trails that they were pretty flippin' expensive. Nevertheless, a good longer term, environmentally sound investment. Yeah, I support this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a much better facility than a pit toilet or a porta potty. And let me invite anybody that's driving down through the Sea to Sky. If you'd like to stop in and see one of these things, give me a call and I'll arrange a tour, a toilet tour for you, because they're actually quite
I'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
I see that Karen has her hand up, and I don't know if Chair Mac can see her.
No, I'm sorry, I can't see her. So yeah, Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, they sound like very exciting toilets. And I'm sorry, I'm going to ask a question just for my own edification because I'm new to this. In terms of the gas tax funds, I see them in the budget as a big lump sum. Are they allocated specifically to each electoral area district or within the services? And if so, how much is allocated to Area D?
I'm not sure of my current balance, but I think it's about $750,000 or something like that. Way, you know, they're difficult funds to spend because you can't just make a local decision. You have to submit it to UBCM and they have to approve it.
Right.
And for the first few years, I've been on the board now for 6 years, and for the first 4 years probably, the criteria were so strict. It was almost impossible in an electoral area to spend the money. You know, we don't have buildings, we don't have land, we don't have that much in the way of infrastructure. Municipalities find it much easier to spend this money. For example, Squamish, we've just contributed $50,000 to the Squamish Library. That was no problem at all because the library is owned by the district and so on. And we contributed, Area D contributed because we use the library. But within Area D, we don't have land and buildings, or not very much anyway. We just have the wastewater treatment plants. So it's difficult to spend the money. So that's why I'm so anxious to be finding projects that do fit the criteria.
Right.
I think this one could fit under recreation as well.
So the funds though are specifically allocated to, like, is there a formula for how they're allocated to each? How do you
sorry.
end up with a balance?
Yeah, there is. I don't know if Suzanne's still here, but there is a formula, and we each have our own separate budget.
That's great. Thank you. I just wanted to know that for my own edification. And then I guess the only other question I had was, it sounds like the units themselves could be moved, but there is some amount that's in the budget that's associated with what I imagine can't be moved, the site prep and signage. I guess that can be moved. Any concerns with that? Because I guess it looks like there's about, I don't know, $6,000 that would go towards non-movable stuff. Is that just going to sit there if you move the toilets, or what will happen with that?
It'll depend whether they get moved at all. Will depend on the development and how that area fits the development. I mean, it is Ministry of Transport right of way, so they won't be building right on that. But I don't have any worries about that money there, because if they are moved, it will be to generally improve and landscape that whole area, which the developer would be responsible for. And as I say, they are planning, they'll only be moved if their plans for a toilet facility go ahead. Because if there's a much larger sort of public parks type of toilet facility with wash basins and so on, and if it's more centrally located, then these things wouldn't be needed anymore. So
And we'll move it up to B.
well, I wouldn't be I'd be amenable to some sort of request like that. They could be put on a truck and shipped up there, and you could have our secondhand toilets.
Thank you.
Okay, so this has been moved and seconded.
Sorry, Chair. I don't.
Go ahead.
So what I'm looking for, I think, is two resolutions, because the first one pertaining to the gas tax funds and the amenity funds will be a recommendation to the board, and then the second one will just be will be select funds if necessary. That kind of wording.
I'll move
Okay.
that first one about gas tax and amenities funds.
And Director Jones seconds it. I'll call the
Yep.
question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Okay, on the second resolution.
Yeah, I'll move that as well.
Okay, and I'll second it. I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now we're up to 7.2, House Sound Marine Trail, Director Rainbow.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the Sea to Sky Trail is very tough to do a land-based trail from Horseshoe Bay up to Squamish. So what they decided, and I don't know who decided it, but years ago, that there would be a marine trail. They developed that around Howe Sound. And so it starts at, I believe it starts at Horseshoe Bay. I think there's one campsite on Bowen Island. There are several on Sunshine Coast. And at the moment, there are two on the west side of the Sound in Area D. So that means south of Woodfibre and down to the boundary with Sunshine Coast Regional District is pretty well opposite Furry Creek, opposite Porto Cove. So Zorro Bay and, I forgot the name of the other one. Those two exist. Did I name them in there? Maybe I did. So the Sea Kayak Association have taken responsibility for maintaining or developing and maintaining those sites. And what they do is they put a toilet in, and I think they've completed that part of their project. They put food caches in there so that people can, when they're camping there, they can store their food and it's bear proof. and they put platforms, wooden platforms for tents, so that so it's easy to pitch a tent and people are not scrabbling around in the dirt all the time. So what they've asked for is some money, a considerable amount of money, actually, about 40,000, but I couldn't, and that was going to be from gas tax funds, but at the moment that's stalled. So they wanted, 40 to 50,000 altogether. So I'm looking at giving them 10,000 to get going on their project and to allow them some time to find some other sources of funding if in fact we're not successful with the gas tax. They also want to extend the trail to include the east side, and I think when Britannia Beach Dock is developed, we would have that as a landing spot. Furry Creek at the moment is not designated as a landing place, but it should be. It's a private dock, but for emergency reasons it should be there. So anyway, the trail is being developed. It's going to be a much more significant thing in a few years' time than it is now, and I'd like to support it. So I'm going to move that. I can't read exactly what it says. Kristen, can you move the agenda up a bit? What did I say? Whatever that was that I said.
Okay, Vivian?
I was going to second it. I'm just looking for the place on my screen to read it. Okay. Funding of $10,000 be allocated from Area D Select Funds to Sea Kayak Association of BC to improve the camping facilities along the Howe Sound Marine Trail. Does that
Okay,
cover?
so moved by Director Rainbow and seconded by Director Jones. I'll call a question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Now we go to 7.3, and that's the Britannia Beach Play Area. Director Rainbow once again.
I probably covered it all in my report. I'm talking too much, aren't I? But I could just say this, that I really appreciate how staff went about this, worked closely with the community people. I didn't have anything to do with the design and all of that kind of stuff. I just met with them and said that I'd asked for $100,000, which was approved months ago now. And so what they did when they put out the RFPs was they got a phase 1 and a phase 2. And phase 1 is going to cost about $100,000. And I asked Angela what phase 2 came in at. Comes in at 100 plus. We wanted to put some contingency in there. She suggested 120 would cover it. So it's up to 120. We won't necessarily spend all that. But basically what I want to do is do phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time. Right, I know if we do phase 1 and everybody packs up and goes away, it could be 2, 3, 4 years before phase 2 gets done. So I'd like to do it all at once. We save money with the construction, the site preparation. We get one fence put in instead of having to do two parts, 2 fences. It's all SLRD land. It's a continuous piece of land, so it's not 2 separate sites. And what the community would end up with is quite an extensive and beautiful play area. The motivation, as much as anything else, is it's definitely needed because the community is growing, more children, and they need something right now. They need a good news story. They're still without the community hall. You've still got that ugly mess at the entrance to the community, at the highway. Just lost their post office. Haven't had a grocery store for 2 years. It's been a rough go, and then COVID on top of all that. So I want to do this. It's a lot of money, but the money's there. And again, I hate seeing it just sitting in the bank doing nothing. So I'm recommending, I'm going to move that we commit up to $120,000. I guess we have to refer this to the board, that we commit $120,000 of gas tax funding to complete phase 2 of the playground area.
Okay, so moved by Director Rainbow, seconded by Director Jones. Birch Jones, sorry.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Maybe a comment. I'm a bit jealous that you can do this. And I sort of ran this by staff when we talked about this before, about when they do this metric and compare the various contractors that bid on these projects. I sure hope they have some sort of environmental metric in that analysis. Like, these are huge chunks of plastic. I'm hoping it's recycled plastic. But, you know, those are discussions that don't have to happen around this particular resolution. You know, what's happening to the old stuff that's there and so on. I'm curious about those things. I will second this motion, and I agree. It would be nice to see something positive happening in that little community. Yeah, thank you, Director Rainbow.
Yeah, thanks for those comments. If I could just say a couple of things to that. Angela and I had a discussion at the outset of this, and I trust her judgment in terms of the environment and the materials used and everything, and it is something that is of concern to staff. And so I think your concerns there will be well covered, Vivian. The existing stuff, the reason that's coming out is it's not safe anymore. So we can't repurpose it in terms of relocating it for somebody else to use. But I again, knowing Angela and certainly Mary Lou, that stuff's not going to be dumped in the landfill if something else can be done with it. So
I'm happy with the secondhand washroom. I'm already ahead.
Yeah. And the other thing is that somebody raised the question, well, there's McDonald's are going to be building a playground. Yes, they are, but that's right down by the highway. And there'll be plenty of demand for 2 play areas in that community once the McDonald's development goes through, because there'll be children down at that level, and there's certainly plenty up the hill, and neither group should have to travel to the other end of the community to get to a playground. So I'm satisfied that spending this public money it's well spent, and knowing that the developer is going to spend some of their money to do something there as well.
Very good. So it's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Move on to correspondence for action. 8.1, request for funding, Braylor Pioneer Museum Society, Braylor Pioneer Mines Map Collection Planning Phase. Karen, I imagine you're going to speak to this.
Yeah, I think it's obviously it's one that Sal had put together. I've read through it, and it seems like a worthwhile endeavor. The one thing I was going to say was I would like to amend the resolution to increase it ever so slightly. I noted that what they've asked for doesn't include the ability to pay the cost of the tax as well. So I would like to amend the motion to request $730 from the Electoral Area A Select Funds. And yeah, I would like to move that.
Okay, seconded by Director Birch Jones. Do you have a question, Vivian?
I was just seconding it. Thank you for calling me Birch Jones.
You're very welcome. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. I'll call a question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried.
Okay, you missed me.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Tony, you're not on my screen, but go ahead.
It's too late, but in the future, what I like to do with things, unless you know for sure exactly what it's going to cost, I mean, if it is going to cost exactly 730, then that motion's fine. But I like to put in a little bit extra and say up to a certain amount, just in case there's a cost that pops up that was unplanned. But that's all I was going to say. But
Thanks, Tony. Actually, that's a great idea. So.
Yeah, very good point. So 8.2, request for funding tourism liability of director's insurance and
Director, Chair, it's Karen here.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm a little unclear whether I perhaps have an indirect pecuniary interest, as I am a director on the Tourism Lillooet board, and the bulk of this is being used. I think we're hoping to purchase some actual insurance, including directors and officers. So I'm not sure if I have an indirect pecuniary interest. I should probably step away. Kristen, maybe you can comment on that.
Thank you. It's your decision, alternate director Playfair, about whether or not you have a conflict. So it's your decision, and
well, maybe I will, just to be on the safe side. And if you can, do I just have to sign out and sign back in? How do I do that? Okay.
Yes, I will. I will mark down your conflict, and I will put you in the waiting room while this matter is being decided. Thank you.
So,
Okay,
Hugh,
Director Burge-Jones, do you want to move this?
8.2, yep, Tourism Lillooet, $4,000 from Electoral Area B Select Funds towards the costs of their director's insurance, commercial liability insurance, and administrative costs for 2021. And for the record, the notes, Kristen, to help the person who writes the check, it should be box 934, Tourism Lillooet Association.
Thank you.
I'll move that.
Okay, and I'll second that. Tony, you're there? Okay, you're back.
yeah, I think I'm back. I lost you for a minute.
Yeah, it's moved and seconded. I'll call a question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next one, would we just receive 8.3, Kristen?
Should we wait?
Actually, they're asking for a letter of support.
Oh, I'm just going to bring alternate director
Karen
Playfair back in. I'm going to have to stop my screen share for a minute.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Tony is sideways now. How did this?
I don't know what's going on here.
There you are. You're back, upright.
Oh, has Chair Mac, is he frozen for everybody?
No.
No, okay.
Seeing him move.
Okay.
I was going to make a motion to receive this request for support regional Central Kootenai open letter to Premier Horgan COVID restart funding. Do we want to do?
Yeah, and I'll second that. Go ahead. So it's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried. And now we're off to 8.4, request for funding Littleton District Rescue Society, purchase of building and lots.
Okay, and I hope I didn't go by that last one too quickly. I don't know where Sal's at with that. There's been a lot of chatter between area directors on that funding. But 8.4, Chair Mac?
Yeah, 8.4.
Yes, I'd like to move this one-time funding for the Lillooet District Rescue Society for $21,000 from Electoral Area B PILT funds towards the purchase of building land and adjoining lot at 272 Main Street, Lillooet, to carry out their very valuable search and rescue operations.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Yes.
This was a recommendation to the,
Kristen?
I was just going to remind it's a recommendation to the board.
Okay, so Vivian moved it. I'll second it.
Oh, Karen seconded it.
Oh, sorry. I can't see Karen, so I didn't see that. But anyways, thank you for that. I'll call the question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried.
Yeah, and I support it 100%. I just wanted to say that.
Very good.
thank you.
Request, oh, and then the next 8.5 is request to rescind funding, British Columbia Conservation Foundation, LaJoy Lake Environmental Study. And I would imagine, Karen, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I did not have a chance to chat with Sal before he went into hospital, but I, from reading it and actually speaking with Director Birch Jones, I understand that this had been put aside as a project. We had requested, we were looking for a master's student to take on the project. They haven't been able to find one. So basically just releasing the funding because we can't do the project at this time. That's the background that I have on it.
Do you have anything to add, Vivian?
It's unfortunate because it looked like such a great project, and I know it's come before us a couple of times. So I imagine that Director Demare is just sort of putting this on the shelf until such time as maybe they do have a student, but he doesn't want the funds tied up. So that makes sense to me. So I'll second Director Playfair's motion.
Okay, I'll call a question. All in favor, opposed, motion carried.
So Vivian should sign up for a master's program, and then you could do it for us.
I'll put that on my list.
Yeah.
Can you scroll this up, please, Kristen? Okay, so we're on number 9, which is a decision on late business, and I don't believe there is any. Late business, no. Director's notice of motion. And this is Tony's favorite part of the meeting.
Move adjournment.
Very good.
Good.
Seconded by Vivian Birch Jones. Call the
Yeah.
question, all in favor.
There, Russell
Opposed,
Mack,
motion
you
carried.
have my second on that.
See all you folks.